Hey, what's up, guys? This is Stu 2K from Cloud9, and you're listening to TCR.
Okay, so let's start.
Hello, and welcome back, everyone, to another edition of The Center Ring, aka TCR, aka your favorite esports podcast. Episode 166, coming to you live and or pre-recorded from an undisclosed location. The date, July 15th, 2019. The time, 8:26 p.m. Central Standard Time. This might just be the best episode ever. We can't do this one live. We have to pre-record this, like the old school days of just doing the podcast form. And the reason is we have super secret information that cannot be made public until Tuesday, July 16th, 7 p.m. Central Time. Strict instructions. So we figured, all right, well, we still got to do a show, and we ain't going to do it at 6 a.m. So let's just do it normal time, pre-record it, release it, wham, bam. Thank you, ma'am.
And it's 7 a.m. Central Time, not 7 p.m. So for those of y'all that are listening, you'll hear this first thing in the morning.
First thing. So that sultry voice you just heard is Anuj. Hello, Anuj.
What's up, buddy? How are you?
I'm good. I'm feeling good. I don't know if it's because we're not live, and so I don't have the pressure of just millions watching us.
The millions.
I don't know. Maybe it's just going back to the roots.
A little bit more loosey-goosey today.
That's right.
Got some big things, some big fun things to talk about today. So I'm pumped for the show.
Of course. We're gonna end the show with e-news as always. Our kind of weekly segment where we get to things that we just don't have time to get to, or there's not enough oomph there to dedicate a full segment to. BlastPro LA honestly was not expecting to want to talk about this event last week, but I felt like there was enough there to discuss, so we'll give it some time. Anuj and I went to Low Tier City 7 this weekend. It was in Arlington at the Esports Stadium in Arlington, so that's in our neck of the woods. So we stopped by, got kind of a backstage tour of that place, so we'll talk about that. And we'll get into some big news here regarding the Overwatch League next season in 2020 here in just a second. But before we do that, be sure and follow us on Twitter at The Center Ring. All these details that I'm about to go over for the Overwatch League next year, I'm going to also tweet out tomorrow morning, which is this morning when you're listening.
Like right now.
Right now. It will be on our Twitter. So go ahead and retweet that, like it. It will have all of it in bullet-pointed information for you, so you don't have to write all this down. So follow that at The Center Ring. Be part of our conversation in Discord. Talk about whatever we discussed on the show, whatever you want to talk about. We're there during events and everything as well. And, of course, I always like to plug, if you listen on iTunes or Stitcher or CastBox or wherever you listen, if it allows you to leave a review, please do so. I am told it helps with Google algorithms. So, I mean, we're already number one if you Google esports podcast, so I don't know how far else we could go, but it helps.
We want number 2 also.
Yeah, let's knock it all out. We want to secure that spot even more. So, good stuff. Let's talk about our friends at Thrive Fantasy real quick. Hope everyone had a successful weekend gambling. You could bet on BlastPro LA. They actually just introduced Dota as a game that you can also gamble on for esports, and of course League of Legends. So you can download the app. Just search in your app store, whether it be Apple or Google Store, Thrive. That's THRIVE Fantasy. It's a daily fantasy sports app for prop bets. Enter the code TCR upon sign up for an instant $10 match on your first $10 deposit. So we already had some listeners do that. You get the $10 pretty darn quick. Turn that around. Gamble responsibly, of course. Of course, do it responsibly. And become a millionaire while doing it.
Tell us your success stories, man. If y'all have any good ones out there or failures, we would love to hear them both if you need a shoulder to cry on. So
Anuj
let us
has
know
won
either
some
way.
money. You've
Got a
won
little bit of
some.
money. Got a little bit of
Me?
money.
Not so much. Not so much. You know we are not part of this esports gambling scandal apps because I did not come
Tim
out a
from the
winner.
red.
I like to go big or go home kind of guy. All right. So if anyone wants to know my life story about going to casinos and gambling, here's this right now. Even though I did walk away a winner once at Vegas, but when it came to like doing the brackets for CS:GO for all the majors that they do sticker bets on, for every single major, as a bit to being a Cloud9 fanboy, I always picked Cloud9 to do a clean sweep and win the major. Every single time. The one time I did not do that was the one time they won the stupid Boston major. And I looked like a damn fool.
And Tim hasn't done a pick'em since then.
I haven't. No, I haven't done it. Because that was the first year they like expanded the major. So out of protest, I was like, "Oh, I'm not buying stickers. This is ridiculous." And darn it, I would have looked like a genius. I did call it on the show
only
though.
one. You and 5 others would have had Cloud9, and that would have been the roster from Cloud9. So
that would have been their parents, and that's about it. But fun times, fun times. So let's get into this big secret story that is preventing us from streaming this live on Twitch. So, dare I say, sources reached out to me throughout the week saying, "Hey, I have a scoop on the Overwatch League 2020 season, so Overwatch League Season 3, of how the 2020 format is going to look." Of course, millions of questions going on about how, this is supposed to be the year where home and away games start, and we really start to see stadiums being played out, and how is the traveling going to work? Well, we have some answers for you. So I'll just kind of go down the bullet list that was given to me. And again, this is referring to Overwatch League Season 3 next year, 2020. So the 2020 Overwatch League regular season will run approximately from February through August, with teams competing in 28 matches each, just as they did in 2019. Each team will host at least 2 weekends of Overwatch League competition in their home markets. These homestand series will look much like we saw in Dallas and Atlanta. So they'll be kind of played out over the weekend, over 2 days, in a festival-style atmosphere. So, of course, if you went to those, you would know, or if you watched on Twitch, it's not just going to be Fuel versus Shanghai for that weekend, right? You're going to have multiple teams there, and they're going to make an event out of it. So again, this means that we will see regular season games played in 19 cities around the world, including countries as United States, Canada, China, South Korea, France, and the UK. That's pretty nuts. I mean, of course, that's where the teams are, but it's just saying it out loud. It's kind of like, damn, this is a global thing. Dallas will host, again, I said each team will host a minimum of 2 games, 2 homestand weekends. The Dallas Fuel will host 5 homestands in 2020, the maximum that any Overwatch League franchise will host in 2020. So again, the minimum is you have to host 2. Dallas and a few others are hosting 5, I believe.
So we know we'll be at least 5 events next year.
Yeah,
so
because
that's
that's going to be, they're going to have 10 matches here. So they will host, and again, so that's a key takeaway for this. For those maybe asking the question, so they're going to have 10 home games because, each one will have 2. No, they are hosting 5 homestand weekends. Keep in mind, think of it like with the NFL, when the NFL goes to play in London, one of those teams are the home team, even though, you know, like when
Neither team is a home team.
exactly right. Even though
Yeah.
neither one is at home, one of them is considered the home team, and it's the same thing with Overwatch League. They do that because depends on who's picking, who's on which side, attack or defense first, and there's a reason
I'm,
behind the madness. So that's
I'm
why you
assuming a
have to be
couple of those
careful.
will be Dallas home games, though, right? I mean, wouldn't you think at least a couple of them are going to have Dallas playing in them?
Well, no, I mean, no. The ones in Dallas will all have Dallas there. I'm
They just
just
won't necessarily be the home team in those matches.
Yeah, because they'll do
Gotcha.
two matches that weekend, one on
Yeah.
Saturday or Sunday, right? Well, one of those games they technically won't be the home team
Yeah. Okay.
in quotation marks. So they are one of the 5 teams to host 5 homestand weekends. I do not know the other 4. That was not given to me. Beginning with next season, this is also juicy information. Beginning with the 2020 season, teams will be grouped into 4 divisions of 5 teams each, answering the question, how on earth are they going to do a global league? Well, here you go. You will have 4 divisions, 5 teams each, with each division being part of either the Pacific or Atlantic Conference. You have the Pacific Conference, which consists of, on the Eastern Division,
The Far East.
yeah, that's a good way to say it, the Far East Division, with Chengdu, the
Gungzhou.
yeah, I still can't say it. You got it. The
Gungzhou, Hangzhou, Hangzhou, Seoul,
Seoul
and
and
Shanghai.
Shanghai. So all of the Asian teams will be in one division. In the Western Division, you have everyone on the West Coast: L.A. Gladiators, L.A. Valiant, San Francisco, Vancouver, and for whatever reason, sports just loves to lump Dallas with the West Coast. I don't know why. They did it with hockey, they do it with baseball,
NFL is the only one where they really don't do it. They pair us with the East
but even
Coast
then
in the
it's East
NFL.
Coast, right?
Yeah.
It's like so.
Not many big major cities in the Midwest, so
No, I
kind
mean
of
you got
see
to
it
put them
happening
somewhere.
late.
I mean,
Yeah.
they drew the short straw, I guess. But again, the way they're doing it, I don't think travel time is like a huge issue.
Yeah.
Atlantic Conference, you are looking at the Southern Division being Atlanta, Florida, Houston, Philadelphia, and Washington. So riddle me how Philadelphia is in the South, but all right. In the Northern Division, you have Boston, London, New York, Paris, and Toronto. That's the interesting one because that's the only division that is really crossing like the border, right? Like you have London and Paris mixed with North American teams. So that will be, again, interesting to see. So that's something, we can always kind of dive in on a different episode as far as which division is looking strong or anything like that. Right now, I think, of course, the Eastern Division is looking good. I mean, really, all of these. All of these have their chance to be strong.
I'll tell you why I like this format that they're doing here is I think it creates some better rivalries, right? You'll see these teams, you're kind of compared against a smaller grouping of teams versus, hey, here's 12 teams in your division, like build your own rivalry. Well, that takes time. So at least with them breaking it down this way, um, I think it'll break some ground in terms of building some rivalries. Obviously in the West, having both LA teams there, that's pretty hype. I kind of wish Dallas and Houston would have also been paired together this way, but having both the LA teams in the West along with San Fran, I mean, um, that should be pretty fun to watch.
Yeah. And again, it just kind of sucks because with Vancouver being there, it would also make no sense to have them in any other division, right? So it's just
Yeah,
this isn't permanent. I mean, who knows at the next league expansion and how that shakes out, but it should be interesting. And each division will play each other at homestand weekend. So you talked about building up that rivalry. That will, of course, help for that. Side note here, before we get too far away from that, I know the Dallas Fuel specifically, obviously, because we live in Dallas, so we kind of focus on that news, or at least have more access to it. They are still looking for a home stadium. Now, with all of these homestand weekends coming on, the league will still continue operating broadcast productions. So you're still going to have, it's still going to look like an Overwatch League match. Okay, whatever. Kind of would have liked to seen each team have their own guys, but that will come, down the road, I'm sure. Teams will be selecting and operating the venues and ensuring that fans have the best experience possible. So it's up to the team on how the homestand weekends look. So broadcast wise, it's all going to look the same because it's the league running it. So you're going to have the league graphics and overlays and everything. But being there and how the feel is, that's all up to the team. I do know for a fact, I think Philly is the only one with a permanent announcement on where they're playing, because they're building their own stadium out there. But I know Dallas for a fact is looking. They don't have a specific area. We will know more next month, as in August. More should be announced, hopefully early August. But they're going to most likely be doing a tour around the Metroplex. So you'll see multiple, obviously they're hosting 5 home weekends. So you'll probably see them spread around Dallas, Fort Worth, Allen, where they played last time. So that will be interesting to see as well. And also, one note there, again, I can only speak on the fuel for this. Don't know about the other teams, but the fuel are moving to Dallas. So their lease is running up for LA towards the end of this season. And then they're going to be looking for, permanent residents as far as where they can stick the players and where they can live here in Dallas. So again, teams are now looking at, okay, well, if we're going to be hosting these weekends, we'll see what happens with these Asian teams. I'm still like London and Paris, right? Like the majority of the teams are still here in North America. So I wonder for these foreign teams, is it still worth not I guess living here, I guess is the right way to say it. So that will be another one. We just have to wait and see. Every team will, there's no rules on from the league on that point, so it's up to the teams.
No, that makes sense. It'll be interesting, like I said, for at least for the European rosters, like based on where they're actually from, where they'll have them be able to locate and things with this. Even like every game will be at a venue, so you don't necessarily have to worry about like LAN or like internet connection and things of that sort. But yeah, I mean, it looks like they're doing this right. They're approaching it the right way, and we kind of expected to see all of these teams kind of have a home base at some point outside of LA. And I know for
Right.
the Fuel in particular, they've always been a big advocate for having their players, based out of their home city. So this will allow them to use their venues and other things that they're working on and promote them better. So I think this will be good all the way around for the league.
Yep. And that's all I got. So, but still, that's some pretty juicy information that we were able to get our hands on. I would like to say first, I'm just not going to do other research to see who else has this information because I would like to think that we have inside sources telling us stuff and no one else. So it makes me feel better.
It does. I like it.
So I'm going to tweet this all out at 7 a.m. on July 16th when the embargo is lifted. Because I respect my inside sources. I don't give them 1 hour to get back to me. So well, I give them time. I give them time. But no, so that's that. I mean, it does answer a lot of questions that a lot of Overwatch League fans had of how on earth is 2020 going to look. Now, again, this is a first. The Overwatch League, say what you want about it, it is the first of its kind. And so who knows if this will work out. This might be a complete mess. You might see exhausted players. They might hate it, but you have a worldwide league, so you got to give it a shot this way first and then figure it out for 2021 and going forward.
In terms of the travel, though, I'm not really concerned about like how the players feel about it. Like, I mean, you look at Counter-Strike; these guys are in a different country every week, let alone a different city, right?
Yeah.
And most of the time, they're not even if they're back at home, they're back there for hardly a couple of days before they're off again. And again, the way they did the divisions made the travel reasonable and makes sense. So we'll see
Well,
how they actually do the schedule to
I
see
was
how
just
bad the
about to say, yeah,
actual.
you read my mind. Is that the one thing we don't have? And then that will also, thank you for bringing that up. That will be out next month in August. Probably mid August is when I heard the schedule for the Overwatch League 2020 will be out. So that's also plays a huge part, right? Like I assume for these guys who are traveling, to China, to Asia, I think like you're probably going to see them being over there for like a full stage, right? Like you're going to
Yeah,
knock out
yeah.
all your home stands while you're over there. They're not going to fly you. All right, well this weekend you're going to play in LA and then back to Korea and then back to New York, and it's not going to I really don't think it's going to be like that.
If anything, they'll have them there for a couple weeks at a time. At the very least, just to knock out a couple
Mhm.
while they're there, if not all of them. So yeah.
Well, and who knows how this works with the players' mentality or the players' morale. We've how many players have we seen say like they're burnt out with it, they retire super early, they're not having fun with it, emotional problems, mental issues, right? And a lot of it stems, I think, from just being young, being away from home, and just being stressed out of your mind, right? Like you went from playing this game as as a professional, but for fun, to this is my career now, and it requires a lot more than just me streaming or doing whatever, right? Playing in a top 500 match or something like that. So, maybe when these players can settle in and be called like, yes, this is my home, it's different. Like you got to think for the last year or two for these guys living in LA, they always had that in their mind like this was never home.
We
So,
know we're going somewhere else,
yeah, we
right?
know
Whether
we're
that's your
going
home
somewhere
city or
else,
what.
so don't get too comfortable.
Yeah.
So we'll see. And you have players, maybe they could move, maybe Seoul moves over back to Korea. I think that would be huge for a team like that because it typically seems to always be with the Koreans where they're like, I'm homesick, right? Like, I want to go home. I want to go back to Korea. So that hopefully will help in that situation as well. But again, we don't know how those teams are going to handle their living situation. They might find it easier to stay in North America during the season because it's just less travel, it's cheaper, right? So we'll see. We will see. But anyway, so there you go. There's some breaking news for Overwatch League 2020. And that is the reason why we cannot do the show live because uh, they asked us to
Nobody knows yet.
hold off. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is not public as of right now. I am waiting for the league to tell everyone, hey, don't make this public until 7 a.m. And then they tweet something out at like 6:58, and I'll be like, you son of a bitch. Like, you took my breaking news away from me. I had one thing in life, and that was to break this news. But either way, good stuff. What was also good stuff is so lower tier city 7 happened over the weekend. For those who don't know, this is a FGC event, primarily this time around big into Smash Ultimate and Melee. Ultimate was the main event. It was the last one being played. Yet again, another tournament that pushes Melee to the side a little bit. So take that for what you will. And it was right here.
Almost double the competitors also for the ultimate tournament. They had like 700 competitors in that and 300 in the melee one. So that had to go through the pool stage and all that to
Yeah.
advance here,
Yeah.
but had a pretty large pool for the tournament.
I mean, it was a large turnout. I
Yeah,
was
it
really
was.
wondering what it was going to be. You never know with these fighting game events, especially like over here in DFW. Like we live over here and we've gone to a ton of esports events, but you never hear about a fighting game scene being
Yeah.
here in DFW. You just never know. So for it to pick Esports Stadium in Arlington as its venue this year, I thought was pretty cool. I mean, obviously, anytime it just goes to show again, like DFW is to me is the capital of esports. Say what you want about LA, New York, wherever. I really do think we live in a pretty hot spot for esports, and it's just awesome to see. So we went to Esports Stadium. Did you want to tell the backstory?
Yeah, I mean, so we went to Esports Stadium to meet originally with Jonathan and Odathone. I hope I'm not butchering his last name, but he's basically the president of Esports Stadium. So we'd been chatting with him the past week or so here to go up and meet with him. So nice enough guy, gave us his number, told us to reach out to him, when we get there. So Tim and I are all pumped up, looking forward to this meeting. Tim's even got on his Sunday best. Like I've never seen him in khakis before, so
That,
looking sharp as
let's
as we
not
get
sell
out
me
there.
short. Like the fact that, and they're not even khakis; they're just like tan colored jeans, sir.
Look like
But
khakis.
the fact that I can wear not basketball shorts, and that's my Sunday best. Maybe I
That's a
need to
win.
rework my wardrobe.
So we get up there and we reach out to him. We're like, hey bud, we're at the front, waiting for you. Looks like he messaged us on our chat with him about
No, no, no,
three
no.
hours
He didn't message
before.
us. He did not
He
message
messaged,
us.
he messaged me.
He
He messaged
messaged
me.
a Nuge.
About 3 or 4 hours before we got there. Didn't check it. His flight was delayed, unfortunately. So he was nice enough to set us up with some really cool people. I mean, this is ended up being fantastic for us to get out there either way. Usually we would have turned around at this point and been like, well, that's a loss. We'll come back and try this again. But we wanted to watch the tournament anyway, check out the venue, and he hooked us up with Jordan Tribute. Um, Jordan is essentially the jack of all trades. I mean, that's what we've come to learn about this guy. He was so awesome. It really treated us well, showed us throughout the whole facility. I mean, Tim, I know you were pretty stoked to see a lot of the production areas and the server rooms and all
Yeah, I
that.
mean,
But
like with my background, I love the production side of things, working in radio and taking courses like that and everything for college and everything. It fascinates me to see all the different soundboards and the different things that go on, and especially for Esports Stadium. For those who don't know, obviously this is like the first of its kind in the world to be like this scale and always being a constant
esports.
esports venue,
Yep.
right? At this level. Um, but it wasn't like from the ground up. It used to be the city's convention center, and then they pretty much purchased. They went with the city and purchased like 3/4 of it. It seems, and said, "Okay, this will be a dedicated esports stadium for it." So they kind of had to work with what walls and rooms that were already there. It wasn't meant to be production studios in the back or anything like that. So it's nuts if you ever go, and I don't even know, maybe you could just ask to get like a backstage tour. They seem pretty chill. I would almost imagine they would probably do it. But to see all the work that went in, and it really hit me like when we went and saw the back production room, and
Yep.
then we went to the server room, and you just see all these cords that are going everywhere, and you're just like, damn, like this is impressive. Like you really don't get that with just going out into like the main area. The stage, of course, is awesome, but you just don't get that feeling of like all like you see why it was a $10 million investment.
10 and a half.
10 and a half. Excuse me. Excuse me. I was corrected
10 and a half.
there. Even I was like,
No, yeah, I mean you're 100% right. When you go to these events, you kind of just see what's presented to you as you're supposed to, right? And then you get back there, and Tim's right. I mean, they really thought of everything, which was, I just noticing the level of detail. For example, they have like 6 or 7 player rooms, I guess you could say, or locker rooms where, for example, if a Counter Strike team is there, they can scrim in that room. They got a whiteboard. But the Overwatch coaches, one thing I learned about the Overwatch coaches that I thought was cool is that they actually are coaching from the back room with a headset jack that directly links them to the players, and they can sit there and watch it with the people that are on the bench. They can watch it on a large 70 80 inch TV that they have back there. They got a whiteboard, but they're essentially connected right in to the audio of the team that's on stage. So really like a coach's locker room as well as
right.
player
And
locker
that's
room to be
and
able
that's
to
really
communicate.
forward thinking because that's how the Blizzard Arena is set up as well, where like the coaches are in they call it the dugout, but where they can communicate right with the players on stage in allotted times, when they unmute it and everything like that. So that's forward thinking. I thought the other interesting note, and I guess I just never thought of it, was the fact that they had two separate boards for each side of the stage that like do not cross whatsoever. So if you have a Counter-Strike tournament going on and you have two teams, there is No way. Physically, 0% chance that those audio signals ever cross. Nothing is wireless. It's all through XLR cables, which is like the mic digital audio cable, or it's a audio cable for microphones. So that was a pretty sweet setup, I thought.
Let me tell you what was like crazy about that part when he was explaining that to us. Every single audio cable that they use and Ethernet cable, anything tied to the stage, the cables are cut at exactly the same length for both sides. So it doesn't matter where the team is positioned, all the equipment cable length is the exact same. So nobody can complain about some sort of uptime, downtime, if it causes lag, like you're all literally running not only the same connection, but your cable lengths are identical. So this is the kind of stuff that really caught my eye. Again, was just the level of detail that they put into it. I mean, seeing the casters area. So like the casters have their own back room with a massive green screen that they can do some awesome backdrops or overlays with they're able
Mm-hmm.
to do right there on the spot. Um, Really fantastic. I mean, it was a cool look at a behind the scenes kind of setting up for the tournament and then how to actually run one. And I thought it was some neat stuff there.
And we saw the players' lounge, and where they sat. They got everything that you would ever need: a fridge, ping pong table, practice areas, and setups, and everything
Air
there.
hockey, foosball. I mean, you name
Anything you
it,
would
they
need
got
as a
it.
player and stuff. So it is cool. And like you said, we like when we were talking to Jordan, is that he said like, yeah, I mean, all the players say that this is like the best place that they've been to have as a training facility. I mean, you had a lot. So even though LTC was here, but you also had Counter Strike teams here this same weekend, boot camping or using it as their practice facility, I guess if you want to call it that, because we also had the Mountain Dew League here
Yep.
this weekend, and they play over at the Mavs gaming facility, I believe. So that's about 30 minutes away from Arlington and all that for those who don't know. So you even had teams staying in that area to practice Counter Strike. So it's like they have enough
Vitality and
space.
Sprout, these guys were all out there using their facility.
Yep. So again, if you live in the area and if you ever get the chance to go see Esports Stadium in Arlington, well worth the time. I mean, if we've been to events prior to this one. This wasn't our first event there, but again, getting to see the guts of it really, I think, opens your eyes of like the hard work and how serious they are about taking esports serious, and everyone there. I mean, we met a few people who work over there, and they all come from esports background, and uh, you know, they really do care for esports. And I will say this too, because me and Anuj are old. We're grandpas in esports world. When we grew up, there were opportunities and everything for us to be more involved with esports, but back then it wasn't what it is today. You were really taking a risk or anything there, and sometimes like you know I know for me personally, you got to pay the bills eventually, so you have to you know get a normal job and say, okay, we'll just do this on the side. This is the place where we hear all the time. I see it on Reddit and on Twitter, like, hey, how do I get into esports? I want to get more involved in esports and blah blah blah. Well, look, not everyone can be a professional player. You first off, you got to admit to yourself when it's time to walk away, and then you can go in, and these are the places that you need to contact for like internships or hell, even volunteering. Like Esports Stadium does something every Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday night for like the public. Like that is something to do, when it comes to getting your foot into the door to work into esports and everything like that. So my point is it's not just here in Texas. You have I know they're a listener of the show, but Philly Esports on Twitter. They do a lot of things in the Philadelphia area, running Halo events. I think they're doing a Fortnite event coming up or something like that. I've seen them tweet out. So if you live in the Philadelphia area, that's a group to get in contact with. Um, you know, you'd be shocked to see like go on half these people on esports, go on their LinkedIn accounts or looked at their history and see how many of them just started out as a volunteer work. Like it's
Yeah.
nuts.
Just
So
getting your foot in the door somewhere.
yeah, just meeting people and you know, not being weird always helps too. But most importantly, get your foot in the door. That's good. But that's enough about Esports Stadium. Let's talk a little bit about lower tier City 7, because that was happening. Um, as far as Melee goes, HBox defeated Zan in back-to-back 3-2 sets. Of course, that means he reset the bracket. HBox had an event of a lifetime, getting knocked into the losers bracket from losing in the second round of winners. So talk about a grind. That's like 5 or 6 rounds of losers that he had to win and reset in the grand finals to get there. So HBox had a hell of an event, probably that Whataburger that he ate prior to, which I don't know if he ever released. He said he was going to release a video if he liked it or not, because he's already been on record once for saying he didn't like Whataburger, which figures.
That'll also get you some hate here in Texas if you didn't
'Cause
know.
He's HBox. He doesn't know anything anyways. So what does he know about Whataburger?
He collapsed again on stage too after he won, so that was nice to see the tradition live on.
Of course he did. Of course HBox collapsed and acted like he never won a tournament before. Of course he did. Of course. But it's hard to hate on him because the dude dominates. So, but that was interesting there. Mango got 4th place and SFAT got 3rd. And Ultimates...
Mango had a reason for performing poorly, though, that he tweeted out. I mean, pretty big deal. He mentioned that he had been having too much sex prior to the event, so unfortunately for him, he was exhausted. Wasn't able to just keep it going.
All right. I guess that's a thing in esports too. You know, you always hear that in regular sports where like coaches will lock that down for players before a big match. So first world problems there, I guess. And for Ultimate, you had TSM Tweak defeating Liquid Dabuz after Dabuz reset the bracket. So for both Melee and Ultimate, you had brackets reset and go the extra mile going 3-2 in both sets. So pretty nuts grand finals. Also, a little inside information here on the Ultimate side. So again, Tweak ended up winning the whole thing. I don't want to speculate, but while we went into the players' warm-up lounge, Tweak was in there. Now, do I want to say he saw TCR in the building and got like encouraged and was like, man, these are my favorite boys. It's like, this is my favorite podcast, esports podcast, TCR, the center rings here. What? And then he said, I'm going to win this for them. I saw him mouth that. I can't confirm.
I forgot to cut the audio from his speech at the end. I'm pretty sure he gave us a shout out in there.
Yeah, I can't confirm it, but I also can't deny it. So
yeah, I think he called us mom and dad in his speech. So if you go back and hear it, you'll know he's referring to us when he says it.
He gives a little wink, and that was towards us. So that's was pretty cool though to see as well with the back-to-back bracket resets and everything there. So to wrap that up, lower tier City 7 was awesome, and so was Esports Stadium in Arlington. As always, go ahead and check them out if you're definitely in the DFW area. It's always worth their next big event, and we can just put this in here now. It was just recently announced that the Esports Awards will be there for not only this upcoming year, November 16th, but for the next 3 years, we learned while we were there. So I don't know if that was public information or not. I won't lie, I don't really read much, so this could be in articles, but it will be there for the next 3 years. So that is huge. Again, just for the Dallas-Fort Worth area and for Esports Stadium Arlington. That they're going to have the Esports Awards, and that will be open up to the public as well. So
for us, it's convenient because all we have to travel with is our acceptance speech.
Yeah, you know, and it's like when we get the trophy and stuff, we don't have to worry about, okay, how do I get this on the plane?
Are they going to break it? Yeah, no.
We just take it right on home. Take it right on.
I'll put it here in the trophy case I have here. We'll add it to the collection and just move on.
Easy peasy. Easy peasy. Speaking of trophy collections, Liquid is getting a nice collection of their own, as the BlastPro series Los Angeles was this past weekend. You had Team Liquid taking first over FaZe. NRG was third. Cloud9 got fourth. That's right, Cloud9 made the playoffs. MIBR was 5th, with Renegades finishing it out at 6th. What are some of the storylines that we wanted to take? Because again, last week, I really was not expecting dedicating time to this.
No, but you're right. It was a fun event to watch just because I thought, again, the resurgence a little bit there of Cloud9, right? We still don't know what we have because it is a BO1 tournament for the most part, right? Really until you get
Yeah.
into the final stages of the playoffs and then the championship. So it's still hard to tell what you get, but it was exciting to see Cloud9 step up and play well. In fact, so well, they went up 291 spots this week in the ranking and are now at number 20, which is
Top
also getting some
20.
backlash, right? That you shouldn't be able to jump that high for an invitation BO1 tournament. But with that being said, they
With 6 teams there and only one being in the top 5. Is FaZe in the top 5?
No. Good
Surely not,
question.
right?
Not
They might
deserving
be
if they
5th.
are, but let's see. No, they're not top 5.
Okay. So yes,
Yeah,
you
they're
have
not top
one
5.
top 5 team in there.
But yeah, I thought that was one of the biggest things that NA fans got out of it. For me personally, the biggest storyline was Naf getting the MVP award. Not so much because it was Naf. Now, it was his highest rated tournament that he's ever had on LAN. He posted a 1.4 rating, which is absurd. But it was the fact that it was just another person stepping up for them. I mean, you think of the past 5 MVPs, for this team. A couple of them too. The last two I think went to Elige. The previous two went to Twist, and now this one going to NAF. So it just shows the versatility that this team has and how they're all able to step up and play at a high level. I know Stewie was amazing in the finals against FaZe. He really led the team on Inferno. I mean, he had 15 to 18 kills going into the half there, and they were able to close it out. Liquid again, I mean, they just continue to prove they are a dominant team. I mean, it doesn't matter the type of tournament that they're in. We still want to see this, obviously, on the major stage, but we're seeing this at places like Cologne. You saw it at the Dallas Masters. You saw it at now we're seeing it here at BlastPro. Like you put them in any type of setting right now, whether it's a BO1, BO3, or BO5, and they're finding a way to come out on top. So for them, the success just continues. And on the flip side, um, I wouldn't take too much away from this if you're an MIBR fan. I wouldn't get too heavily down on this because they were playing with their coach, right? So it's going to be um, interesting to see what they slot in with their 5th there and how they continue to reshape and rebuild that roster. But for MIBR, you know, they they had a tough outing. They were able to pull off a tie against Cloud9. They beat Renegades, and that was really it for them.
Yeah, you bring up like this format and everything, and everyone knows with Blast Pro is wonky, right? Some people will tell you that you should take it serious. Some people will say no, don't. It's a joke as far as like trying to look at it from a ranking standpoint. I kind of tend to lean more towards that way. I think when it comes to Blast Pro and the way I view them now, don't look at results, look at performance, right? Like for Cloud9 fans, I think you can walk away and you're feeling pretty good about the new roster. This was
Yeah.
the first time these guys have played together. Uh, Tens for crying out loud. This was his first event on a big stage, if that's what you want to call it. We'll get into the venue here in a second, but you know, they played well. When they beat FaZe 16-12, you lost to Liquid. Is anyone judging you from losing to Liquid at this point? No. You tied against MIBR and NRG, and then you lost to Renegades. Again, those results are all over the place. How do you beat FaZe but then lose to Renegades? Like, it just doesn't make sense. But they performed well. Tens, I think, showed a lot of promise, a lot of composure. Sometimes he, you can make the argument that some of his kills were trash kills. He was the last alive sometimes, so that there's always that. But again, I think if you're a Cloud9 fan, you're looking at this as, for me personally, as a Cloud9 fan, I was watching, and for the first time in a long time, I was excited to watch Cloud9. You know, this seems like a roster that isn't just going to be bounced around like their last 3 or 4 versions. So I think that you're looking at a positive note from that point. You said it with MIBR. I mean, they just got to get through the major at this point. You really
Yeah.
kind of feel for them. It was made official, obviously, that Cold is off the roster, and he offered to say, "Hey, I'll stick around and play the next 2 events, and then I'm out before the major." And they said, "Well, that doesn't make any sense. Like,
Just go.
just
Yeah.
go. We'd rather play with Zeus and get some reps in before the major. Why just hang out?" So now the question is with Zera, Cold Zera on the bench, where's he going to end up? His buyout is rumored to be what, $1 million?
Yeah.
Like, that's
Not
insane. I
going
was
anywhere
talking in
anytime
Discord with
soon.
some listeners on that, and it's like it's rumored that FaZe is the favorite, but we talked last week that makes no sense. And for that type of money, it makes no sense for any team to pick that up. Like, you really feel like that's MIBR just locking him in.
Yeah, eventually they'll let him go and negotiate some lower price point. You're not going to get $1 million out of any team because every team that's currently, let's just say, sitting around the top 10, right? Those are the teams that are going to make this kind of move, right? You're not going to have a team at 25 or 30 make a pitch to get Cole Zero. Like he's not going to sign there and stay there long term. And really, kind of across the board, I'm having a tough time finding where he kind of fits in, right? Furia just signed new long term spots. He's not going to a team like Vitality or Strawless Ents. You can kind of scratch them off the board, right? G2, North, Mouse Sports, NIP, Fnatic. You could kind of count them out just based on their history of the types of players that they signed. And really the one team that kind of that leaves me with here is possibly NRG. Um, I don't see that happening. I think that roster feels pretty happy with where they're at. You could say Ethan has been struggling over the past, now a couple of months, but I think that was the reason the change for Stanislaw was made to see if you can kind of re-energize him and get him and Tarek going a little bit here. But
Do you think
FaZe is the
Cold
only
would
one.
play on a non-Brazilian roster?
I don't think he has a choice if he's going to make that kind of push to move, right? It's not going to be Furia, so Luminosity, okay, like they're not in the top 30 right now, and there's not, you're going to go back and play with Phelps. Y'all just booted him not that long ago, and so he speaks good enough English to where he could get onto a international team.
Wouldn't
Just
give us a
money
liner though.
wise, yeah, no, he wouldn't. After his Corona and shower. But yeah, I mean, and
Like, dude,
that's
I
not
just
a,
need
that's
you
not
to
a
say like
joke.
one sentence, and no, after like 45 minutes, don't worry. It's
Yeah,
like, okay.
give me 45 minutes, I'll be back. But yeah, I mean, FaZe is the only one in terms of just team style financially that makes sense, but at the same time, like Tim said, we kind of explained that they don't at the same time. You're gonna boot Neo and go, who's gonna be your in-game
You're just
leader.
gonna
So
be a true skill-based team. So, and here's the thing: if you want to kind of compare it to like, when I was thinking of, okay, maybe let me think if Cold on phase would work out, and I really don't think it would long term, because I think of a team like Liquid. That was a team that picked up Stewie, top tier player, right? I think you could say he's on the same tier as Cold, and obviously just took them to the next level. Well, that's because they were already at that level. They just needed that extra player, that extra boost to like solidify that, yeah, no, they're a legit number one team, right? Tier, when I say one, tier one team. FaZe is not at that level. Like,
not right now.
no,
They have been.
they have been, but
Yeah.
even like with this roster, I think everyone has given up that these guys are going to do it, or at least I have.
To me, it only makes sense if they drop. I think this can work out. So I'm kind of a little bit on the flip side. I think it can work out with one difference here. You don't drop Neo. You drop Olaf Meister.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
if you
That's
want
what I
this
was
to
gonna say.
work
Is all
out,
off.
you keep Neo because he just understands every aspect of the game tactically, even emotionally, he's been on the biggest stage, so he understands that. I don't think you drop Neo. I think Olaf has underperformed for a long time. He's not even a top 20 player in Counter Strike anymore. He hasn't been consistent for damn near almost a year at this point.
God, could you
Um,
imagine though? Like, do you ever see that happening?
I do. I mean, I bet you he's not cheap because they signed him at a time when he was a hot commodity, right? So that you're paying him probably still at that level would be my guess. Like I highly doubt they went up to Olaf and like, hey,
We'll
you're
cut you a
playing about
deal.
50% less. You're not as as aggressive as you once were. Your play style is not the same. Can you take a pay cut? Like that's not happening, right? Rain is part owner in phase, so that would be awkward, I would think. So again, unless it's a Guardian or Olaf Meister, and the only reason I throw Guardian into this is because I would like to see Guardian somehow end up back on Navi, and try and push Navi over the edge that they're kind of stuck on right now. But it can't be for Neo in this workout.
So time will tell. I don't think you're going to see anything happen till after the major. We're kind of in that pre-major break, anyways. So nothing's going to happen, anyways. So we have time to speculate and everything there. So, but either way, BlastPro LA I thought was good. The venue, yeah, it wasn't as big, and I think it was kind of a punchline just given to how we got to it. But I thought it looked cool. Like it did look intimate. Now, if they weren't charging people more money, I think it would have been a lot cooler. You know what I'm saying? But it's very LA to make something seem exclusive and charge more. That's the most
Look,
LA thing they could do.
you're right. The venue did look cool, in terms of the lighting and like kind of how they did the dome effect on the roof. I thought was pretty neat. Um, Definitely a tiny venue. You compare it to Blast Pro Portugal, for example, that just happened a few months back. It's a night and day difference. I mean, so I'm kind of
Yeah.
curious as to did they not market it properly? Like what really happened to cause this? Because there's a drastic difference from their previous
the
events to
the
this one.
article that I've read, which I don't know if it's like official or anything in that nature, but it's like the original venue just was not selling, and they realized like, oh no, the stadium's going to be empty if we continue, and so they said, all right, emergency plan B, we're switching venues just so it can look more full.
So let's go to this furniture warehouse.
Let's go to this furniture warehouse, which in the end it looked good.
It did. It did.
From a stream standpoint and picture standpoint, it looked good. The issue is everyone knew why you were there, so you kind of had pie on your face the entire time. But you know, I guess you're Blast Pro series, so what are they going to do about it? What are they going to do? So let's get into some e-news, shall we? That is not what is going on. That's the intro. Jesus. This is why we need the Elgato Stream Deck. That won't happen.
Some rookie move.
I hit two buttons. It's this touchpad, man. It's the touchpad on the laptop. I'm going to blame technology. Speaking of Blast Pro, though, this is a good segue into e-news, where Astralis is to part ways with Refresh, of course, being one of the parent companies to Blast Pro, which is why Astralis pretty much cut off every other tournament except for Blast Pro events. And, they told us, no, don't worry about it. That has nothing to do with it. It's not going to drop our skill. Well, I guess, 2 or 3 months at not number one was long enough for the players to be like, we're done here. We got to go back to doing what we're doing.
How crazy would it be if they just shot back up to number one, didn't lose, won the next major, and just kept going Astralis' old ways?
It would be crazy. I don't think I think the Astralis number one days. I think it's in their head now. I really do.
Yeah.
I think Liquid is in their head. Liquid showed you how to kill the dragon, and so now the dragon's not as scary, and Astralis is that dragon. Speaking of dragons, in Overwatch, the Shanghai Dragons. Oh, this must be an error here. I put that the Shanghai Dragons won Stage 3 playoffs. What? That's right. The Shanghai Dragons won Stage 3 playoffs. And they did not have, no Rainbow Road here, all right? In quarterfinals, they played NYXL, defeated them 3-1. Semis, you had Vancouver Titans 4-1. And in the
Smashed 'em.
finals, yeah, you had San Francisco Shock. They beat them 4-3. That one was a little dicey, but nonetheless, they closed it out, which is what winning teams do. They literally ran the gauntlet. 1 through 3 in the league, they had to win. They had to defeat 1 through 3 in the Overwatch League to come out victorious, and they did. So you can't take anything away from them. So congratulations to the Dragons. I tweeted out on our Twitter at the Center Ring that, you know, despite what you say about Overwatch League, you can't deny the feel-good story that is the organization Shanghai Dragons. So not really the same Dragons that went 0-40 last year. So it's not that impressive, but we won't get into it. Well, we'll let them celebrate.
Let them have their moment.
I'm going to let them have their moment, and everyone on Twitter can have their moment. One player on the roster was there last year, but let's not bring that up. Let's not bring that up. The team went 0-40. The organization went 0-40, so sure.
This is a great moment for that one individual, though.
For that one player, historical. Everyone else, they've just been a pretty good team this year, so congratulations. In Battle Royale news, Epic announced, or I guess they didn't even announce it, the patch is live. In the recent patch to Fortnite, Epic released airstrikes into the game. Mere weeks before the World Cup. And
Have you
people
seen the video of this?
are pissed.
Have you seen this?
I mean, I've
in-game?
seen people use it. I've watched, you know, Doc was playing it, and I think he got like one of the first kills with an airstrike.
Yeah, it's going to be used. It definitely changes the competitive balance of the game, especially for
You think?
especially for end game. Like, it's not even, you know, mid game. Okay, it's all right. It's not like it. It's,
You can run away
kind
from
of-
it, but
you
when
can
that
get out of it,
circle
but-
gets small,
If you're not watching competitive Fortnite, when the circle gets down to like basically what would be considered a final circle, essentially,
and it starts, moving.
there's still 10 plus teams alive at that point. I mean, you have a lot of players remaining, and so for this airstrike to basically be able to cover that whole circle, and basically if you're a player that's not as gifted in the building side, I mean, you could drop this right underneath and it's just gonna rain down hell on the players above you. So really curious to see how
What
this
were
gets
they
used.
thinking? Every
You know what,
time you
though?
think they learn their mistakes with announcing
They're not,
that,
it's not a mistake. This is on purpose to me. This is all intentional.
like
They know
wanted
what they're
to mix
doing.
it up. They wanted
Yeah.
to.
Hey, look, this causes controversy right before the World Cup. What are more people going to do? They're going to want to tune in and check it out to see what happens. And
I mean,
to
between
me,
the sword that they took out, the little hamster balls that they took out, the plane, all this crap that they keep putting in and then taking out, and people are like, "Bravo, Epic, bravo!" And then they're like, "How would you guys like airstrikes?" It's like, no,
to me, it's
no,
like
no.
there's no way. I'm not going to give them the benefit of being this dumb. I would like to assume that they are this smart. So this stuff is
Fair
done
enough.
intentionally, and they just know how to garner a conversation around it and keep building it up. But there's no way the competitive team over at Epic is actually like this bad at what they do. Like, I just don't buy it.
This just never came up in the conversation.
So-
In other news, you have E-League Gears Summer Series Invitational happened over the weekend. This was the kind of preview event for Gears 5 multiplayer. Tox ended up defeating Ghost 3-1. Tox being former Optic, who was just recently dropped. So Tox, coming from, obviously a big Halo org, picked up that roster, picked up where they left off, winning, I guess, the first Gears 5 event. Unconfirmed, I think it is. So that's pretty cool. I haven't played Gears in years. I have not owned an Xbox for a very long time. Maybe Gears of War 3 might have been the last one I played. It looks like Gears of War. So if you like that, maybe someone who plays more often can tell me if it looked technically the same, but to me, it looks like Gears of War. So if you like it, there you go. Activision announced that Joanna Ferries will be the commissioner of COD Esports. So this is, all, of course, leading into the new Call of Duty League with the franchising and everything like that. She brings in 12 years of experience with the NFL, with part of that being the vice president of marketing strategy and fan development. Interesting here because the former commissioner of the Overwatch League, Nate Nanzer, had a similar background. Like, it wasn't about, it was about building the brand and everything, right? Which I guess is what you want as a commissioner.
Hey, Harvard grad, man. Can't go wrong.
No. So, where would she rate in your top 5 hottest females in esports list, Anuj?
Oh, Lord. At least number 3.
At least number 3. Let's
Yeah,
write
she's
an
church
article
hot.
about it and do a tweet.
Hashtag church hot.
Yeah. Church hot, man. It's
If
too
you
hot
need
for
an
church hot.
explanation on this, let us know. We're not being serious here.
No.
Or
Just
are
look
we?
up We Play Esports on Twitter, and then you'll get that joke, and it will be hilarious. Other than that, light week for eNews, because that's it. Because we already talked about the esports stadium having 3 years of, I guess, spots for the
Esports
awards.
Yep.
So exciting times for all to be had. And that was an exciting episode. So I thank you, the listener, for listening. Whether you skipped around or listened to the whole darn thing, I love you all the same. But that will do it for The Center Ring, a.k.a. TCR, a.k.a. your favorite esports podcast. Episode 166 is done. It's in the books. Again, we will be tweeting out all the bullet notes for the Overwatch League 2020, so be sure and check that out at The Center Ring on Twitter. Give us a follow, give us a like, give us a retweet, whatever it is that you feel is necessary to be sure that we live on into perpetuity. We will be back next week talking about esports stuff. We're kind of in that pre-major lag for Counter-Strike and the off between stages for Overwatch League. So if you got anything, hit us up because we will take suggestions. But that's for next week. Join our Discord. It's on our Twitter at The Center Ring. Be part of that conversation and all that. But for Anuj, I'm Tib. We'll see ya.